Hey, hello. Today we're going to look at the second lab, chapter 6, section 2.6.26, swapping variables. And we're not going to do the first one because the first one is just sort of shows you the unit testing and all that. So pretty much the whole code is written out and you just have to fix the one problem with that thing. So it's not an actual really coding lab. It's more of a, oh, here's how Zybooks is handling unit tests now that we're dealing with user-defined methods. But yeah, so this is going to be the first coding lab. So we're going to do this one. Okay, so let's look at what we're being asked to do here. So it says define a method named swap values that takes in an array of 4 integers and the integer array as an input parameter. It's going to swap array elements at indexes 0, 1 and swap elements at indexes 2 and 3, right? So we have a 4 indexed all right, a 4 integer array indexed 0, 1, 2, and 3. And so we're going to swap the 0 and 1, and we're going to swap the 2 and 3. Main program should call, then write a main program that reads 4 integers from input, right? So you're going to, okay, so the overall program is going to read in those 4 integers, stores those integers into an array, again, in those positions, 0 to 3. And then the main program should call the function swap values to swap the array's values, and then print the result on a single line separated with spaces. Okay, so that's just going to be sort of a sequence of formatted print statements. Fair enough. I think we can sort of do that. Okay, give us an example here. The input is 3824. You're going to see here, right? Index positions 0 and 1 are swapped. Index positions 2 and 3 are swapped. And then it tells us, because of the unit testing, that we must define and call a method swap values, which again takes in an integer array called values as a input parameter. And yeah, so okay, I think so let's actually build out the main code first, and let's see how the overall program is going to work, and then we'll do the sort of utility method to support it. How does that sound? Okay, so within our main function here, so essentially, pretty much we're going to sort of start the way most of our things have started, right? We've already imported the utility scanner, so we're going to create our scanner object. No surprise there. We're then going to define an integer array, and we're going to hard code it for 4 values because it's only going to take in 4 numbers. And then we're just going to take in a series of inputs, right? Using the next int method to store those inputs into the array's index positions 0 through 3. So let's get to it. So again, this point, most of this should be sort of secondhand knowledge, right? We're going to scanner is equal to new scanner system in. All right, again, and then we're going to initialize our little integer array. So it's going to be int. All right, and we're going to call this, I'm going to call this values is equal to new int, and again, us hard coding it to be 4 positions. Okay, so we create our scanner object, we've created our integer array. Now we're just going to store the values that our scanner reads in. So values x position 0 is going to be scnr next int. And I'm just going to kind of copy that line, and we're just going to replicate it 3 more times. All right, and we're just going to do 1, 2, and 3. So now we have read in and stored those 4 integers into our little index array. So now what the program tells us is that we are going to call the method swap values, or we're going to pass in values into there. And then, right, so we're going to call the method swap. Is it camel paste? I think it's camel paste. Yeah, it's camel paste. Swap values. I'm going to input values there. And then once that's done, so now theoretically it's swapped. So now we just need to do sort of a single, we could either do a sequence of print statements where we print each sort of value and then it'll concatenate it. Or we could just do a single print line and just concatenate it within the thing. I don't know what's easier. Let's just do a print line. just for system out line. And so in this case, I'm going to grab. So again, because remember, we're just printing this out, it's going to be print the number, space, right? Number, space, number, and then no lagging space, looks like. Okay, so we're going to print. Not need all. Huh? Definitely. Okay, sorry. That's okay. Plus, okay, we'll give us ourselves a space. Plus. One plus 2 plus value 3, and just get rid of all that. And I think that's all the string there, and just end with a something else. That's how the overall program is going to work. Okay, so let's talk about the swap values thing. So yeah, that's right. Now it already tells us sort of the opening statement, right? It's going to be a public static void swap value. So question for you guys, why is this a void in this case? Because aren't we outputting an index array, or an integer array? Why is that a void, right? Why is there no explicit return here? And the answer for that is because in this case, it's already, because the integer array is mutable, we have already stored, right? We've initialized and stored the values array already. So what this is doing is, although it is sort of, right, it's doing actions on an existing thing, it's not creating a new object that needs to be stored, right? That would be different if we were doing something working with something mutable, like let's say a string where we would have to sort of mutate and then store the result, but that's not what's happening here. So that's why this is a void return. Because again, it's taking an existing thing, something that's already stored in memory, it's mutating it, but it fundamentally is not returning an explicit thing. So let me just grab this line here, save myself, just a little typing. And then I'm gonna go this line. All right. And let's open my little code block there. Okay. So let's talk about the approach that we're going to take with this. So there's different ways to do this, but part of the challenge here is that I have to swap these while sort of maintaining at least one in memory, right? Because the problem is if I set let's say index 0 to be index 1, I've now written over index 1 and now I can't store it to index 0. So I think the easiest way to do it is just create a temporary integer variable and basically just kind of store one of the two pairs into it. So for instance, like let's say I set Leon. So I set temp equal to 0. Then I can set 1 equal to 0, right? Overriding 1 or overriding 0. And then I can just set 1 equal to the temp variable. And then do the exact same thing for the 2 and 3, right? Okay, so I hope that sort of makes sense. If it not, it should be fairly intuitive the moment we get started on this. So I'm going to say int temp. So I'm going to initialize that. And then I'm going to set, so again, we're going to do these in sequence. We're going to do 0, 1, get that done, then 2, 3, right? So in this case, I'm going to say temp is now equal to values index 0, right? So we're going to store that value there. Now, once we've stored that value, that frees us up to overwrite what that value was. So now we can say now value 0 is equal to values 1. We're writing it, and now values 1 becomes equal to 10. And so in that way, I gotta semicolon those. Okay. So in that way, we sort of effectively swap it. And then I think we just replicate that code for the ladder swap between 2 and 3. This is 2. 2 is equal to 3, and 3 is equal to that. And I think that'll do it. Let's run this code, see how we're doing. 8 out of 10. Okay. Oh, what did we? Well, that's a little funky. Okay, so this would work. So my unit tests are passing. There's a problem with my output statement here. So let's see. What am I doing? What did output 114? Well, that's just unusual. All right, let me take a look here at my print line statement. System out print line, right? Values. I wonder. Does that have to be? I'm just curious. I don't think it's a. Well, let me just try that. Oh, fascinating. Okay, so something to be on the lookout for. This is kind of when you jump from one coding language to another. Apostrophes and quotation marks, not always equivalent, and that is the case here in JavaScript. So use quotation marks. Don't use apostrophes in this instance. Okay, I thought I was messing up there, but yeah. All right, so that is chapter that is this lab in a nutshell. Again, fairly sort of intuitive, not a whole lot here conceptually that we're sort of jumping from what we've done previously, but now we get to use our user-defined methods here. So yeah, as always, ping me, let me know if you have any questions.